lot of people ask me, did I always want to become a writer? And the answer is no, actually far from it. In fact, when I was at school, I first of all wanted to be a vet, then an architect, and after taking fifth form economics, I decided I was going to become a property tycoon. So my whole career, up until I started writing, has actually been in real estate. I've worked in real estate in New Zealand, in the UK, Hong Kong twice, and also in Australia. But one thing was constant throughout all that time was I was always a voracious reader. I read anything and everything. And even when I was at school, I used to have a novel inside my textbook. And I used to read during class. It was way more interesting than whatever they were teaching us at school. And I used to read on the way to school. I used to read at night after lights out under the covers with a torch. And yeah, I absolutely loved the escapism you got from reading a good gripping novel, the film you'd build in your head, and these amazing adventures and exotic worlds you could visit just by turning the page. So I was in Hong Kong for the second time, and I was doing a job that I'd once loved but had just grown to resent. And I remember sitting there one day in my cubicle, staring at my laptop screen, having just replied to my 100th email, and drumming up the courage and the motivation to pick up the phone and make a sales call and try and convince someone to buy something that they didn't necessarily need. And I remember just thinking to myself, is this it? Is this how life is supposed to be? There's got to be more to it than this. You know, I didn't even feel like I was living my own life. I felt like I was living someone else's version of life. And I really needed to make a change just for my own mental peace. And I had the idea too, well, why didn't I try write a book? I dabbled with creative writing before, obviously did a lot of writing with work, with emails and reports and things like that, but creative writing had done a bit. I had a blog that reviewed documentaries, I had a travel blog, and I'd even written a few articles for an ultra running magazine in New Zealand and got paid for it, so I knew I could write. But did I have enough in my head to be able to write a book? So there's only one way to find out, right? For anything in life. So I sat down and started writing. And I wrote a lot of the book in the office and in the downtime between meetings and calls and emails. But then I started feeling guilty and thought that it wasn't the right thing to do. So I finished the rest of it when I was at home. And I sent it off to the editor and sat nervously waiting. It was just like, you know, when you're at school and you send an essay off, you submit your essay to the teacher and you nervously wait for the red ink all over it and the terrible grade in the top corner. And there was a lot of red notations, not red ink. But the editor said something that surprised me and encouraged me. She said, it's a fantastic story. So I made the corrections she suggested. I did a bit of rewriting, polished it up, and published the book. And that book is called Vengeance. And I'll never forget the day when I had the finished paperback in my hand, and I remember holding it in my hands and looking at it, seeing my name on the cover, and just thinking, wow, you know, I did this story, I created the story, it all came out of my head. And the feeling of pride, of accomplishment, of satisfaction, it was just nothing I'd done in my career till then had given me that feeling. And I just thought to myself, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm definitely not going back to that office. I'd always read a lot of thrillers and loved thrillers. And the common thing with most thrillers is that the hero is ex-FBI or ex-CIA, he's some sort of secret services, or he's ex-military, he has special training, he or she knows how to handle themselves, they have contacts they can call upon in time of need. But I thought, what if there was a situation where something bad happened to an ordinary person like you or me, who didn't have those skills to call upon? And that was the idea for my hero, John Hayes. Now, I'd spent a lot of time in India over the years, and there were a lot of things I'd read in the news, a lot of stories I'd heard that were perfect fodder for a thriller novel. So Vengeance is about an expat couple who are excitedly enjoying their first posting overseas, and unfortunately on one night something terrible happens to the wife. Now the man, John Hayes, he's unable to get any justice because the police are, like in many cases, are just unable to do anything because the people involved are connected, they're politically connected, they're wealthy. So John is unable to get justice in the normal legal manner. And through a series of events at a later date, he finds out who these people are. And again, through a series of events, he ends up hunting them down and taking his revenge. Now, I had a lot of fun writing this because I put myself in that position. I thought, well, what would I do if something happened to my wife and I couldn't get the justice I deserved? How would I go about getting some form of satisfaction and not get caught? Because that's the main thing. So it was a lot of fun doing research on what to do, how to do it, how to get away with it, and get a satisfactory result in the end. Now that book, that first book, the one that started it all, has become a series of, at the time of this recording, 12 books, the John Hayes series. There's a spin-off series featuring one of the characters, Max Jones. He has a series of his own, which is now 2 books, and I'm currently writing book 3, and I have plans for another spin-off series featuring another character. But that first book, Vengeance, is the one I'm most proud of. Not because of the writing. My writing has evolved and improved over what is now 20 books. But it's the book I wrote when I didn't know anything, when I knew nothing about writing, when I knew nothing about publishing. And yet I still went ahead and did it. I sat down, I had the courage to take a risk, to do something completely different to what I'd done up until then. And sit down and write. And it all started with that one question: what would I do if I was in a bad situation?